Hey everybody, and welcome back. My name is Sue and I am from OMLEmbroidery. In this video, we're going to do something outside the embroidery box. We are going to do embroidery on a sewing machine. Any sewing machine. You can do this on any machine that you have. Now this is me just practicing, and I actually didn't get it too bad. I'm not following any pattern on it or anything. I'm just practicing to get it, nice and straight. So it does take a little bit of practice, but I'm telling you guys, it's a lot of fun. So you can do embroidery on a sewing machine with a little bit of practice and a little bit of supplies. So here's what you're going to need. I used Tulle. Now this is sparkly tulle, so it's really pretty, just because it's easier to use. Now I did use fabric, and you can use fabric, and I'm going to show you guys the progression here of what I was doing. That's the back side. So this is the first time, and I had a little bit wider stitches, and that looks pretty good. Look at this. This is what I came up with. How is that for color blending? And all this is freehand, basically zigzag stitches, and you mix them. So I'm thinking we can have a lot of fun with that. That's excellent. I started off with a heart shape, but then I realized that corners or circle curves are a little bit difficult to do. So then I just played around with it, and I got pretty good here. I kind of liked it, and then I think that's it for this one. Oh, I was just playing around with curves. Now, if you do embroider on an embroidery machine and you digitize, something like this will give you a real appreciation for angle lines. So if you have an embroidery machine, I challenge you guys to try this. And if you have a sewing machine, I also challenge you guys to try it. I hope to see challenge accepted in the comments. So this was my first try, and it's not bad, and like I said, it's a lot of fun. Then I worked up to, I tried this one, and I got even better at it. That's nice and straight, and the lines look good, nice and crisp. And I worked on, this is my first curve, and you can see it's a little bit, ooh, there. But this one is much better. And I was like, wow, okay. And that is just cutaway backing with a little bit of scrap fabric. So get your scraps out. Now this one is pretty good. I kind of ran out of time for it, but I was working on the color blending. I feel my color blending first one was way better, and I liked it. So look, I got a little bit better, and I outlined it with just a running stitch and did some color blending. The colors are kind of terrible, but I needed to feather it around. If you look at the first one I did, that is fantastic. The yellow and the green. Isn't that amazing? All freehand. Be creative. And I tried it on some, fancy, expensive tool, but it didn't really work because it started coming away and it's a little too stretchy. And that's what this stuff is. I was like, no. So here's what you need for this. A sewing machine, any kind of a sewing machine, it doesn't matter, and a little bit of wash away for the tool. If you're using fabric, then all you need is a cutaway and a piece of fabric and one of these. Now I have a bigger one that I used. First of all, this is a 10-inch hoop. They cost about $4 at Walmart. And this is a smaller hoop. It doesn't matter if you use plastic or wooden, but I started smaller. You see how nice and tight everything is, and it makes it a whole lot easier to do. So I would suggest a smaller one, maybe a little bit bigger than this one. This one seemed a little tiny, so somewhere around, this one's 4-inch and this is 10-inch, so something in between that, I'm gonna say. So that's the first thing you need, and you don't actually have to. It just makes it a whole lot easier to do. Some tulle, some marking pens, so you can give yourself some lines to work on and line up. If you're using tulle and you want to do a design, this is how I would do it. I do a piece of tulle, and then this in the middle, and this is just WSS, the plastic type, and then draw your design and then put the tulle on top. Now, because this is WSS, you can't use a water-based marker because it's just going to go right through. So you can put, because you can see through the WSS, you can put a design underneath and trace it out, and see, you'll be able to see the design, and it does not wreck the WSS. So make sure Sharpie is a good one. Everyone usually has a Sharpie around. Trace your design, but let's start at a beginner's level. I can't quite do a design yet, so let's get started. Now, I am going to use McDreamy. I do have other sewing machines, but I have McDreamy all set up for the cameras, so I thought, what the heck. I might as well use him. He's there, and I have a specialty foot for McDreamy, but seriously, you can do this on any sewing machine, and if you don't have a foot for it, then take the foot off and just use the needle. So literally anybody can do this. Now, I have 2 layers of the tulle. I am not going to put the WSS because I'm not going to be doing a design because I still need to practice. So I'm going to start off with straight lines. And actually on the tulle, you can use an air erasable pen if you wanted a line. Let me hoop it first and then I can do it. And it's just, normal hooping, just like this. Push it down, and you want to make sure everything's nice and tight, whether you use fabric, whether you use WSS in the middle, or whatever you're doing. Make sure everything's nice and tight. So let's use this, and I'll just do a line here. It may be too hard to see on the camera, but we'll have a go at it. So that would be a good starter, would be just an X. Okay, let's take it to our machine and have a look at our machine and see what I've changed. Okay, so here we are at McDreamy, and one thing we want to do is move our feed dogs. We want our feed dogs to stay down. We don't want them, see how the feed dogs, now these things right here, these are the feed dogs right here. And what they do is that they feed the material. They kind of grab onto it. Now, if you can't figure out how to drop them, then put your hoop this way, and then you can go around them. But it is better if you can. Now, I also changed the foot on McDreamy. So I took off my embroidery foot and I took off the embroidery arm. On McDreamy, you don't have to, but I did just for this. Freehand quilting foot, you can use a darning foot, you can use no foot. You don't have to have one. And if you're using a darning foot, there's a darning plate that goes over the feed dogs. Okay, so I have the little cover for McDreamy, and that just covers up the feed dogs so we don't have a runaway machine. So it doesn't, make us move anything. Now, the cool thing about this foot, if you look, is that it has extra to go up. So I have my foot in the raised position, and if you need a little more to get up, you just lift it up and carefully, of course, slide it in. Watch the needle. I'm going to move the needle. That was a little bit there. Needle needs to be in the up position before you can do it. Don't worry, this is a lot of fun. And we are ready to go. So what you are going to start with, and I would suggest if you have any other foot other than this one, that you check and make sure your needle's not going to hit anything when you start, because we're going to be using a zigzag stitch, so you have to make sure that you're free and clear. If you're not sure and you don't like it, then take the foot off. You can do it just fine. So I'm going to switch to a zigzag, just a regular plain zigzag. The width, I'm going to start off at 3.5 millimeters, so not too big, not too small. The length, I'm going to make it 1.6. And I'm going to leave everything else to normal. So let's get started on this. You guys are gonna realize that this is cool. So grab a hold of it. Now remember, this is on a sewing machine. I don't have any embroidery, anything on this. And what we have to do is we have to move the hoop. And this is really fun. So let's do our first stitches and I can show you what's going on here. So put it down and we're gonna stitch a couple. Just see how it goes back and forth, and it's not making a stitch. That's okay. We'll fix that. Okay, so I had a few technical difficulties, but we're on track now. So I played around a little bit and I'll show you, just a little more practice, a couple of practice pieces. This one I really like. I think that is a really, really nice satin stitch. I think I did really well on that. So a little bit of practice and fill stitches. I think this fill stitch is much nicer. What do you guys think? All right, are you ready to embroider on your sewing machine? I forgot to mention earlier that you should change the bobbin to match your top thread so that it looks better when you're stitching it out. It adds, dimension to it. So lift up your foot, and if you don't have a foot like this that lifts up enough, then you can, I have the lever up, or you can, tip it up a little bit to get it underneath. If all else fails, then you can take whatever foot you have, you can take it off and put it back on again. But you don't actually need a foot. So if you wanna just do it with just the needle, then go for it. Okay, so another thing to watch with this one is this foot is that there's a bit here that sticks out the back, and you got to make sure that it doesn't hit the hoop like this. So you got to make sure, remember this is a really small hoop, so you'll have to be careful with that. So okay, we've got the bobbin, we've got nice thread, we've got tulle, you can do it on any fabric, we got our little hoop. Let's embroider with our sewing machine. Remember, you can use any sewing machine. So let's put the foot down. Make sure you have it on zigzag, and the settings were 3.5 millimeters wide, 1.6 millimeters in length, and you can play around with it and get different effects. I'm going to show you guys the movement that you need to do. So this is our zigzag stitch forming, and I'm just holding the hoop lightly. And what you want to do is try to be as exact as you can. And remember, it does take practice. You want to go over it. And the closer you get to, going through the same holes, basically, the better it's going to look. And I would say go over it 4 or 5 times. But you see the movement of the hoop? And I'm just really holding it lightly. And I'm kind of moving it up and down to go over it. Now, if you see something that you want filled in a bit more, you can just always go back and do it again. This is looking great. I'm really happy with this so far. It takes practice. I've done, maybe 10 or 12 little trial things so I could pick up on all the detail work and how to do it. And I'm getting better at it. So you can embroider with a sewing machine. Isn't that amazing? I think it looks really good. Now, one thing that embroiderers will learn, you'll get a deep appreciation for angle lines on curves. So right now I'm just doing straight lines. We're just going to make it easier. Go over it as many times as you need to make a nice corner. But if you're doing curves, you got to go over the angles so it looks right. And I'll guarantee you that it will help you when you're digitizing because you will understand them a little bit more. Now, when you're starting out too, just keep working at it, but go slow. Don't zoom your machine. I find if I go faster right now that it just doesn't work out properly. So look, isn't that fantastic? Now I see a spot I want to go back and cover up. You want it to be nice and even. So if you're off a little bit, like I'll just do it on purpose here, this is what the stitch will look like. It looks a bit jagged. If that's the look that you want, that's fine. But what you want to do is try to make the edges crisp and easy. Isn't this fun? And it's looking good. See, now I did that mistake on purpose and I fixed it just by going over it. And it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So if you wanted this to taper, all you would have to do is decrease the stitch width. How easy is that? And you can make it taper off into a little point, which will be absolutely fantastic for lettering. Let's do another stitch. So I'm just gonna zigzag walk over here, and you could do a fill stitch by moving the hoop the other way. So for the satin stitch, I was going over it, you know, up and down sort of thing. And fill stitch, you can go back and forth. And this is also how I did the blending stitches. So for the blending ones, I can move it up and over a little bit more and leave kind of like a feathered edge to blend the thread. So for the next one, now I was thinking this would be fantastic for doing like landscape art. I think of like trees and mixing the colors of green, or like I have orange, so a big pumpkin where you mix 5 or 6 colors. But look how pretty that is. Can you imagine another color in there? So that's fill stitch and satin stitch, and then blending colors. You could also, with another color, you could also, you know, do the detail work with a different color, but with just a straight stitch. And if you had something underneath, say, you know, even cutaway or anything like that to follow along, you could get a whole lot of detail work. So let's switch to a single stitch. I'm not going to switch colors, but you can kind of see how this will work. So you could still move it around. You can change your stitch length, but look at how lovely that's going to get some details in. You could do different shapes. You could be more precise. Say if you were doing eyes or something like that, but you can walk it around different ways. You could get with another color and you could outline this, or go through the middle, or outline. There we go. There we go. A little over, a little bit more. I'm a little crooked. But isn't that cool? So you could get really good at it and you could make some really detailed art. But I guess that's it for this video. I hope you guys are going to work on this. I hope you guys you know, are up to the challenge. I think you can learn a lot, and I think you can have a whole lot of fun. Look at the single stitches, how they're working out with me moving it like this. They look different than the fill stitches. Isn't that cool? Imagine if you had more colors. So you can do embroidery on a sewing machine, and you can practice it, and you can get better at it, and you could come up with something really cool. I think it's a whole lot of fun. Look, isn't that neat? Isn't that cool how it works out? Hopefully you guys can see it. I didn't do too badly on it. The fill stitches are nice, and you can crisscross them a little different ways to make, you know, different densities and stuff like that. And this is the single stitch there. So texture, depth, detail work, you can do it all with your sewing machine. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys are up for the challenge, and let me know how it works out. Post in the OMLEmbroidery Facebook group, and let me know how you guys are doing on this. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!